Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Oh, okay, perfect. I'll put that up a second. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast where I talk to whoever I want to because it's America and I can because I choose to, and you don't get a say about it. But let's talk about the title sponsor of the podcast. That is Go Fast Don't Suck. Bill Duda over there puts hard work in, makes every match he goes to even better, even though he might be sleeping in a chair, tired. It's okay. We all like to make fun of Bill because Bill makes fun of us because it's probably true to some point. But okay, go over to gofastdon'tsuck.net. Go get your match jerseys, your match banners if you're a match. Go get your dry fire decals because everyone needs to be dry firing. If you say you don't, you really need to because you're in denial. So go over to gofastdon'tsuck.net. Tell them Manny sent you and move on with your day. But without further ado, let's get to today's guest. Today's guest is Mr. Kevin Gorospe. Kevin, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for coming on. If anyone doesn't know, Kevin is one half of the GW collab with Mr. David Wampler. If you paid attention last week, we talked to Mr. David Wampler. So if you didn't, go back an episode and we'll talk some more. But anyway, Kevin, thank you for coming on again. We've been chit-chatting a little bit about it, so it's kind of cool. So we made it happen in our schedules, even though our schedules sometimes don't line up. But most people's don't.
Most people's don't. It'd be a little weird if we had the same schedule, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Unless we worked in the same place, but we don't live in the same area because you're from area 8, correct?
Correct. Yep, I'm in Northern Virginia.
Awesome. So for anyone who really doesn't know who you are, who is Kevin and how did you get into shooting?
Well, I'm a 37-year-old Virgo. No, I'm a competitive shooter, obviously. I've been shooting competitively since 2017. I'm an open GM. I shoot for Atlas Gunworks. That's pretty much my whole repertoire in terms of shooting. On the opposite side, my personal life, I'm a full-time fireman with Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department. I've been with the department on the career side for about 10 years, and I was volunteer for about 5. I live in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I have a wife, 2 beautiful kids. One's 5 and one's 2, and they're my world. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Pretty open book.
Yeah, right on. So what made you want to become a firefighter?
To be completely honest, I was at a wedding. This is gonna sound really stupid, right? But I was at a wedding, and we were all having the hors d'oeuvres portion of the wedding, right? And we're all sitting at this table, and I was sitting there eating my stuff like I normally do, right? Seafood, I can't help myself. I just got to eat it. And the tablecloth catches on fire, and I just stared at it. And there's a dude that was a fireman, and he just stared at it too. And we both looked at each other, and I looked at the fire, and I was like, dude, that's pretty sweet. He looked at me, he was like, oh, I guess I'll put it out. I was like, oh, I could have put it out. He's like, well, then you should become a fireman. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I will. And then fast forward, I got the opportunity to, I drove by the firehouse every day to get to work. I was in retail at the time. And they had a banner that said, we're looking for volunteers. And that kind of just got me to the door after that wedding. And I was like, you know what? The guy said I should be a fireman. Cool. I'll go check it out. And I kind of just fell in love, like, automatically. I don't know if you've ever felt this way before, but like, have you ever walked into a job, experienced a job, and be like, man, this is what I was made to do?
I definitely understand what you're feeling.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was for me. Whether I was actually doing the job or not at that moment in time, like, I could see what they were doing. And I seen the fire trucks leave the firehouse, lights and sirens. It was just, man, like the exhilaration and just seeing what kind of difference that they were trying to make, and just seeing the camaraderie they had at the firehouse. I was like, man, this is an awesome job. This is gonna be an awesome career. So just kind of fell in love with it then. Became a volunteer, just to kind of figure out a little bit more about it, right? Because you never really know 100%. I was a little nervous that Fairfax requires everybody to be EMTs because I was like, man, my mom's a nurse, but that doesn't mean I like blood. That doesn't mean I like vomit, right? But that whole part actually came a little bit more natural to me than I thought it would. Obviously, I like to be a fireman. I'm a truck fireman. I like to ride with ladder trucks, and I love running fires. But the EMT side of things has intrigued me ever since I started. Not because, again, not because I like to see certain things, but because I know I'm confident in my skills and I know I can make a difference. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. I don't know if that answers your question at all, but
No, that is actually pretty awesome. Now, I assumed, but that most fire apartment stations require a lot of EMTs, first responder kind of training.
Mhm.
At least around here it does too, because budgeting is everything, right? They gotta
yeah,
they can't just have one guy do one job. They got to be doing it all.
yeah.
Now on a ratio, do you go on more EMS calls or do you go on more fire calls?
Uh, Definitely more EMS calls. I would argue, I don't know the actual statistic, but it's more like 70-80% are EMS calls,
Mm-hmm.
surprisingly, whether you're on a suppression rig or not. Obviously, we're in Fairfax County, at least, our suppression rigs and our EMS rigs are all stationed in-house, all in the same house. So I started at one of the busiest firehouses in the county in Merrifield, Fire Station 30, and we would average, 15 to 20 calls a day per rig, minus the truck. The truck is a specialty piece, so they would run still double-digit calls per day, but obviously those were mostly suppression-related calls. But in Fairfax County, majority of what we do is all EMS, so that's got to pay the bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fire calls, you don't necessarily get paid for services in terms of that. It's all paid through, obviously taxpayer money, but through our EMS calls. So,
Mm-hmm. Right.
yeah.
Now, what's the most memorable fire you've been having to deal with?
So I've been on a few that, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. It's really funny, right? So like people always ask that, so, oh, what's the craziest call you've ever been to? What's the craziest XYZ you've been to? And it's kind of hard. Me and a couple of my buddies at work were talking about this the other day, and like it's interesting because being a fireman, being an EMT, I'm sure it's the same thing for like being a cop or a nurse or whatever, but like you almost find a way to compartmentalize certain things, right? So like people are like, oh, how'd you deal with the trauma of this call? It's like, well, I don't think about it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So like it just kind of it kind of shoves itself into its own little box. But if I really had to think about certain things, there's a couple calls that really come to mind. House fire wise, most recently I went to a 2-alarm fire out in Prince William County. It's a little bit farther south than Fairfax. And the entire house is fully involved. One guy was flown out. The only real reason why that was 100% memorable for me is because obviously one, it was recent, but we got to put the ladder stick up. And that's always kind of nice. I was driving the ladder that day. And that's like the best job in the firehouse. In terms of the actual action of a fire, to be honest, I can't really think of one where I've really gone in and had to do anything super crazy. A lot of the stuff that we get in Fairfax, all the units are on top of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in a really resource-rich environment here in Fairfax, so most of the time when we get there, it's like we get the fire out pretty quick. So there's nothing. I haven't really run too many big crazy fires in my 10 years on the career side. But if you were to ask the most interesting or traumatic call I've ever been on, one time this was probably 10 years ago now, but we ran a call for an accident with injury, and I was brand spanking new, right? So it was like 1 a.m, so everybody's all sleepy, tired. We run to the rig, get our stuff on, accident, injury. Normally we're supposed to put on our full bunker gear, so that we're protected and stuff. So I'm getting my stuff on, and I hadn't quite got my headphones on yet, right? Because I'm thinking, all right, well, it's an accident, blah, blah, blah. And I start hearing people screaming in my rig as we're screaming down the road. I'm like, what is going on? So I put my headphones on. As soon as I put my headphones on, my driver hits the parking brake. I'm like, what just happened? So I jump out of the truck, and I see this car fully involved in fire. And I was thinking, it's a normal car accident, and this thing ended up being on fire. So I had to kind of audible, throw my pack on, pull a hose line real quick, and put out the fire. And in that instant, I realized that there was 3 people in the back seat. One guy was, needless to say, just to kind of keep it a little PC, like they weren't, 2 didn't make it. 1 was on the edge, and the car was fully involved in fire. So that probably had to be one of the most memorable calls I've ever had in my career, because that car had it hydroplaned off a curve. They were running away from the cops, go figure. And the car rolled like 6 times and ran into a tree. So yeah, that was probably the most interesting call I've ever been on. One of the calls that they'll always kind of stick up in my mind, minus like EMS related calls or something like that. But yeah.
Well, there's the day in the life of a firefighter. Well, the crazy days, right? Most of them are just sitting around eating like pasta, right? Or
dude, like it's hilarious. Yes, that's like literally all we do. No, people think like we do nothing all day, and I would try and argue and say that's not true, but there are days where literally you don't do anything. So I went from one of the busiest firehouses in the county to one of the slowest houses in the county. So like I'll be lucky if I run like 6 calls and a tour, and our tour is like 3 shifts. So it's been nice to slow down a little bit, to have a little bit more energy for my family and kids at home. So
well, that's good. But yeah, that's kind of like the coolness, because everyone's comes from a different background in this community and sport, right? Not everyone's a military guy or a law enforcement guy. You got the retail guys, you got the firefighters, you got the guys who work in a factory. So it's kind of cool to hear everybody's story.
Yeah, for sure.
But
somebody was telling me like to be a GM in Area 8, you have to be like a mechanic or something, because like there's an overwhelming amount of mechanics.
I mean, that's true. Matt Hempel is a very good he's a very good mechanic, but he I don't know if he breaks more cars than he fixes them. So.
I would argue he makes more problems than fixes, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be that redneck mechanic, though. I mean, everybody needs one, right?
You need some sort of redneck in your life.
Yep. Well, and then you got Gilnet. Gilnet works on fancy cars.
Yep.
Even though when I call him or he calls me, it's like, "What you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm working." He's just wrenching on something. It's like, you can hear me at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. And so how did you originally get into the sport? Like in 2017, what drew you to USPSA?
So when I became a fireman, like there was a lot of overtime opportunity, right? So like I was working a bunch, and then I didn't, my family and I were kind of getting used to having that little bit of extra income. And when things started to slow down in terms of overtime, I was like, man, well, I need to kind of figure out what to do with my extra time, because as a fireman, we only work a third of the year. So I had all this free time. So I was like, well, I'm going to go get a part-time job doing something else. And my wife was like, yeah, that'll get you off of video games. I was like, well, if I'm not gonna, because I was playing video games till like 3 a.m, Call of Duty to be specific, and Destiny at the time. But my wife wanted me to stop playing video games, and I needed to kind of get into something else during the daytime. So I was like, all right, well, my dad had bought me an AR, so I was like, I'm gonna go sight this thing in and just go play with it, and that became a hobby that I enjoyed doing. And when, like I was mentioning, overtime started to slow down, I was like, you know what, let me go see if I could get a part-time job here, because this looks like fun. So I went to the owner of the company. I was like, hey, obviously I applied, did the whole 9 yards. He brought me in for the interview, and I was like, hey, like, I know nothing about guns. I don't, this is like literally the first time I've ever shot a gun. And I have no idea what I'm doing, but I really want to learn. I'm a really good student. I'll listen. And I'm a hard worker. I'm a fireman, blah, blah, blah. I told him the whole nine, the whole thing. And he was like, yeah, sure. Let's do this. And I think the thing he was telling me he didn't tell me at the time, but he told me later on, I was like, the reason why I hired you is because you said you wanted to learn. He doesn't really get, he wanted people who are willing to stretch themselves to learn new things. And, that kind of worked out for me in that favor. So my boss, I worked at the local gun range there, Elite Shooting Sports in Manassas. Great range, great people. And my boss really kind of took me under his wing. He was a GM for 30 plus years, and he saw potential in me and kind of took me under his wing, kind of showed me everything, how to shoot a gun from the get-go, how to move and shoot, how to reload. He literally was my very first mentor, who taught me everything I knew. And he was like, "Hey man, so I looked at him. I was like, "Hey man, you've been training us to shoot competitions. I'd like to really go try one out. Is there matches that you would suggest?" And he suggested to go to Fredericksburg.
Mm-hmm.
And Fredericksburg is one of the biggest local matches we have out here. Went out to go try it out. Just because I wanted to see what he was teaching us, right? Like he's been teaching us how to transition guns, how to reload, how to draw. I was like, well, like we keep doing the same drills. Like how's this applicable to anything? So I went out, tried a match, and I was like, man, this is freaking awesome. Like I need to do this more. So I went there, I went to a couple matches in Quantico, and all over the area here. And then he was like, man, since if you're gonna keep shooting these matches, I got to get you a shirt. So that turned into my first sponsorship. And he took care of me, man. He really looked out for me. Definitely had my best interests at heart, and really helped me excel in the sport in a really fast pace. So I really owe my boss at Elite Shooting Sports pretty much everything that I've accomplished so far.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now, did you go straight into open, or did you dabble in some other division at first?
So I started off in limited. I had a hand-me-down STI Edge in 40 with some old school Gen 1, which still are arguably some of the best mags out there. Gen 1 STI tube mags. They were awesome. Unfortunately, I don't have that gun anymore, but it was enlightening to say the least. I started off in limited in C class. And in about 6 months, I became a master. And then I think in 2019, early 2019 is when I ordered my first Atlas, or I got my first Atlas Chaos, and that's when I went into open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think March or April.
So that's not very long. I mean, it didn't take you that long, and it's kind of cool. That progression. I mean, I think everyone at your kind of when you started, everyone was still shooting those edges. Everyone still liked the STI Edge because they still made them.
Yeah.
They were relatively cheap. I mean,
yeah, in that market, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of them are probably good quality, bad quality, but hey, you could get into a 2011 and shoot limited, well, properly.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of cool. So you had in 2019, you got your first Atlas Chaos, and was that in 9 or was that in 38?
So my boss, he was an open shooter, and he looked at me. He was like, "Kevin, you're not going to shoot 9. You're shooting 38 Super Comp." So I really didn't have a choice. He was like, he was dictating my gun selection. He was like, if you're gonna shoot an open gun, you're gonna shoot 38 Super Comp." So I went and bought 38 Super Comp. And this is when I started talking to David a little bit more and getting, we became closer friends. I'd known him for a few years already, and obviously in competitive shooting and stuff. And he shot at Elite Shooting Sports, the place I worked at. But he was just pumping up 9 major. I was like, okay, well maybe I'll try this out. So I sent my gun back to Atlas, got them to cut me a 9 major barrel, and I tried 9 major, and it was cool for a while. But what I noticed is that they definitely react differently. So for me to get everything as similar, or making sure that everything was consistent, I decided to stick with one caliber, and that was 38 Super Comp.
Do you feel like the redheaded stepchild at Atlas because you are shooting 38?
No, I feel like everybody else is poor. So.
Yeah. That fresh Starline brass, right?
Oh yeah. Dude, I have brass that is like super duper old, like some of my boss's old brass, some of Ron Francisco's old brass. I have 38 Super Comp, but I do have brand new 38 Super Comp brass just sitting in a big 5-gallon bucket too. Like it's surprising how many times you could really reload one of these cases, man. Like I've gone through some that have gone through like 12 cycles, which is a lot in my mind. So
Oh yeah. Well, and luckily it's not like 9mm brass that, that's kind of risky at that point.
It is a little risky, but tell you what, when I was loading 9 major, I did get a bunch. I was testing a batch of brass to see how many reloads I could get out of it before it, catastrophically failed. And surprisingly, I got one out all the way to 8 reloads
Mm-hmm.
with 9 major, which was really kind of surprising for me because everybody was like, "Oh, don't do it, don't do it." But I was like, "Hey, why not?" But yeah, I got like 8 reloads out of one set of brass. Not that I would really do that. It's not practical. The whole point of 9 major is so that you can just pick up brass and just leave it, right?
Right.
But I wanted just to test it and see if it would last, and it lasted pretty long. It lasted longer than I thought it would.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the cool thing, the cheapness of the brass. So have you
Yeah.
been finding brass lately still, or are you just kind of sitting on your pile of brass? Because it seems like everyone right now is looking for 38 super comp brass.
So I planned way ahead of time, and I bought. Let me think about this. I have a 5-gallon bucket of nickel coated 38 super comp brass that's completely not used. And I have another 5-gallon bucket full of regular brass that's brand new, not used. And I have a third 5-gallon bucket of used brass. So my whole system is to try to get through all this stuff that is used, and once it's fails or looks like it doesn't eject, the rim looks like crap, whatever, like then I'll start tossing them. But generally, yeah, I've just been going through what I have and haven't really been touching any of the new stuff until I need it. Like nationals and stuff, or like I know everybody's like super big on, you need to only shoot like brand new brass, stuff like that for all the majors and nationals. I'm like, yeah, but these are hard times.
Right.
So so I just find the stuff that's like better. I case gauge everything and just make sure it all functions. But yeah, my guns eat anything, so it's
Well,
no
that's
big
pretty
deal.
good. Yeah, but Adam at Atlas would be like, "Shame on you for not using new brass and majors." Yeah, I thought you
Mhm.
want to win.
I thought I told you differently. Yeah, you did. I just don't listen.
Right? I mean, we all got to learn. We all got to do our own thing, right? Because we all can't be
That's
the
it.
same.
That's 100% true.
Right. And you're shooting 2 new Atlas V2 Chaoses, so that's pretty cool.
Yep. I sure am. They are fantastic.
And
They are. Go ahead.
No, go. You're fine.
No, I'm just saying there's some workhorses, man. Like I put them through some crazy stuff, like just testing it, not cleaning it, not lubing it, just seeing what will happen. And these things just keep purring, man. Just keep going and going. So
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And they're kind of Gucci, you got the fancy grip panels on them, and
yeah, so
they're blinged
like
out.
so they were blinged out. I used to have the brass panels on the side because I wanted, I like gold guns. I had a full gold Chaos at one point, but I wanted these to be all gold, but they don't really do titanium nitride anymore. So I got the brass panels to kind of bling it out a little bit. But I went to the Guns Out range day out in Loudoun County. Guns Out does this, they do a whole bunch of two-way awareness stuff from in the community and stuff. And they had a big range day at one of the new gun ranges out in Loudoun County, which is super Gucci, by the way. XCal in Loudoun County. If you guys haven't gone there, definitely make a special trip out. But to the point is, Joe Farrell was out there and he brought his guns, and he had a bunch of like palm swells and step panels and stuff on his gun, and we got to shoot his guns. I was like, man, you know what? Like Dave and I were so against it before, but after feeling it and shooting his gun for like the whole day, I was like, man, I think I need to try this out. So I actually swapped out on both of my Chaos V2s, the right-sided panel. I added the palm swell in there, so it kind of fills in that little voided space on my strong side hand. And I actually put an order in for some step panels for the left side to fill in that support side gap in the back of my hand. I'm gonna try that out, but right now I shot a little bit today. I had a lesson this afternoon, and I tried out my gun with new palm swells on the right side, and dude, I really really like this. So yeah, I think the Alpha Grip with the new panels is a game changer. It's awesome.
That is pretty awesome. That's the cool thing about the versatility and the adjustment of the new Atlas Alpha Grip. But yeah, so you brought up Guns Out Range Day. I wanted to save it for a little bit later, but we can dive into it now. You, Joe Farewell, David Wampler, Taryn Butler was there.
Yep.
Vinny from Monsoon Tactical,
Yeah.
Roger from QVO.
Yep. He was there. Who else was there? I know I'm missing a couple of dudes. Jamie Villamore was there. Um, Obviously Taryn brought Tatiana with him. Um, Pete Wakeham from Carolina Custom Foam was there.
He makes some
Super
baller
good.
foam.
Yeah, my man's super cool. So, they had a bunch of dudes from the industry. Obviously, Taryn brought the Sand Viper and stuff like that. So that was cool. He set up a whole course of fire. He did shoot the Chaoses. And he said, damn, that's a really nice gun. It
Yeah.
was just hilarious.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And it's like that seems like that place, the Guns Out Range Day at XCal. Well, it's like what, a fitness center. There's a Top Golf behind it. It's like it's baller, isn't it?
It was literally the most Gucci place I've ever been to in my life. Like you walk in, huge entryway, everything's in glass. It's ridiculous. They have a cafe, like a full service cafe with like real food that's made on the spot, on the left, and then they have a humongous like retail area, guns all over the walls. They have a knife vendor showcase thing. Like it was crazy. They have private lanes where it's like literally one lane to yourself. They have like an Apex club over on the side where it's 2 lanes and you have to like pay a certain amount of money just to be able to use that. Dude, it was ridiculous. Upstairs they have a full service cafe or a full service restaurant, cigar lounge. They have billiards upstairs. Dude, it was like, what is happening here? This is ridiculous. And yeah, they had a full gym in there, which I'm sad I didn't get to go play in, but
Yeah, you couldn't get your swole on.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, let's go get some drinks. I'm like, hey, let's go lift. It's terrible.
Exactly. Now, do they carry Atlases currently?
They do not. We're trying to figure something out, trying to work a deal out so they could become a dealer for us.
That would be dope.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we need more places like that, but you need a lot of money to put one of those in.
Exactly. Yeah, I think like not just anybody's gonna go out and buy like a $5,000 pistol, right? $6,000 pistol. Like nobody's just gonna go out. It's like, oh yeah, sure, I'm just gonna buy that. So I feel like you got to find the right spot, with the right kind of clientele to really sell that. Like you can't go to Joe Schmo gun shop and be like, yeah, hey, do you guys want to be a dealer for Atlas? Like that's not gonna fly, right? They're not really gonna come off the shelves. They're just gonna sit there, collect dust. So
right. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that place was for sure like there's some money in that place, and I think Atlas would do really, really well there.
Yeah, it probably definitely would, especially with the clientele they can bring in, the facility. People just chill there all day. They're like, oh, we'll shoot some guns, eat a sandwich, go smoke a cigar.
Yeah, let's go golf real quick, and we'll be back.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So that's
they also have an iFly right on the other side of it too.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so they could go pretend skydive.
Yeah, no, thank you. I guess because you're kind of in a tube, so that's safer than fake jumping jumping out of an airplane, I guess.
Yeah, I think it would still be a little. I don't know. I'm afraid of heights. Go figure, right?
Right, the firefighter
the firefighter who climbs a 100-foot ladder. I'm a little, I have a good respect for heights. Let's put it that way. It's not necessarily going to stop me from doing something, but I have a respect for heights. So I think like being that high up in a glass tube, I think would still freak me out a little bit, but for sure, probably not as much as jumping out of a perfectly fine airplane, plummeting to my potential death. No, thanks.
Right. Now, speaking of airplanes, do you normally fly to most of your matches or do you try to drive?
So it just really depends on the match. Dave and I this year traveled a little bit for a bunch of our matches, and travel costs nowadays to fly and stay at hotels, it's like ridiculous, right? Like after COVID and everything, all the prices like jacked up. So it just really depends on the match. If it's worth it, well, and it's far enough away that requires us to fly, then we'll fly. But I think Dave next year is planning on driving to a lot of the matches to kind of cut costs a little bit. I'm not 100% sure if I'm game for that. I mean, Dave's my boy, so if he wants to drive, I'll drive with him. However, I will probably bitch and complain about it the whole way.
Just means, sorry, David, you got to drive now. I'm not driving.
Yes, like you're gonna drive, and I'm gonna complain to you, and we're gonna stop every 20 minutes for me to go use the bathroom. That's just how it's gonna be. If you don't like that, we could go fly.
Right, exactly. I don't think anyone wants to drive from Virginia to Odessa, Texas, though.
No, not even a little bit. No, I think he was talking about driving to where was he talking about? Like for nationals next year, if they
Mhm.
put it in Alabama again, he was like, yeah, let's just drive to that one. I'm like, I don't know, man. That's still like, isn't that still like double-digit hours? Like I'm not. I'm like, I freak out after 3. Like,
Right.
man, I'm gonna hyperventilate. But yeah, so I mean, if he's up for it, then I'm always game. I'll always kind of have his back, but it would be my preference to fly because it's easier.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I could agree with that. It's a little bit easier to fly, although then you got to go through TSA. You gotta make sure you got to limit yourself. It seems like for your range bag, right? Can't take as much
Uh,
crap.
yeah, you can't take as much crap, I suppose, but I mean, like, what do you really, really need to bring with you,
Hmm.
Like I have a baller case right from Carolina Custom Foam, and like literally fit everything I need and then some into it, right? Like 50 pounds, you could shove a lot of stuff to make 50 pounds,
Hmm.
right? Like that's a lot of weight in my mind. That's a lot of weight. And then if you go first class, you got 75 pounds. So like that's even better. Um, and typically when you do first class, like they give you 2 bags, right? So
Hmm.
that's always nice and easy.
Right.
But
So yeah, you'll never need to worry about your ammo weight at that point.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that case is pretty baller. If anyone hasn't seen this case, go to Instagram, go to
Yep.
Kevin's Instagram, and you'll find it eventually. It's pretty deep by now.
Yeah, it's pretty deep in there, but it's bright yellow. You can't miss it.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
like I like to pick the most obnoxious colors because you'll always find it. Like if we're at the airport, it's like, oh look, there's my case. It's going into the airplane right now. I can see it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. The obnoxious case, which you have an Nanook, don't you?
I do. Yep.
Yep. I
Yep.
quite enjoy the Nanooks. I like their locking system. I think the best out of all the case brands.
Yeah, for sure. Did you switch to like TSA clasps or whatever those things are? Or
No, I haven't because it seems like I haven't had to fly with it yet anywhere, so I haven't
gotcha.
haven't taken the chance to swap it out. But I think I might on my next case because I don't think I need to get a case that's a little bit bigger so it holds 2 open guns. The
Gotcha.
current case I have now will hold like 2 duty pistols,
Okay.
but not 2 open guns. It takes a special breed of case for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, these TSA clasps or whatever, they are baller. Like I don't even have to use the eyelets. Like what I went on our last flight, where was it? We were coming back from Trident
Hmm.
and from Maine, and the TSA person, or not TSA person, the whatever, the airline person was like, "Oh, you need locks in this." I was like, no, sir. I have 2 locks right here." I was like, oh, damn. So I
Hmm.
don't even know what the actual regulation is. Like if there's a hole, it has to be locked. Like I don't know. But either way, like I showed him, I was like, "Hey man, I got locks on here." He was like, "Oh, okay, cool. No big
Yeah.
deal."
Yeah, and that's definitely a convenience some fact. I mean, some people say you never should do that, but it's easier when they don't have to call you back. I mean,
Yeah, and that's been me and Dave's philosophy about it the whole time. It's like, look, if they want to get in, they are going to get in. If
mhm.
you want to make it easier or harder for them, if you make it harder, they're gonna jack your stuff up.
Right.
So,
Well, then they'll cut your locks and then not necessarily put locks on it, so then you're not going to
yep,
go anywhere. So,
yep. So might as well just make it easy.
yeah. I mean, yeah. And then if you have the option of watching them inspect your case, I think that's a good option too.
Yeah. And and thankfully, like Dave and I have always flown out of places that are pretty open about guns, right? Like
Hmm.
surprisingly, like Virginia or DC or whatever, like flying out of Virginia with guns, no big deal. And most of the places that we fly into, obviously, we're going to a major airport where there's hundreds of people coming in for a match. So like we're not the only gun they're going to see come in or out, right? So
Hmm.
it's usually those weekends are like, oh yeah, no big deal. So we've always had good luck.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, but you also got to, that nervous first time of taking a gun to the airport's always probably nerve wracking. But now that you've done it a million times, it's no big deal.
Yeah, yep, yep. And we also we always put the Apple tags and stuff in our stuff, so we always know where things are. So
Yep.
takes kind of some of that stress away, so to
Right.
speak.
Yeah. Especially if you're on the plane and your bag's on the plane.
Hmm.
Or you can be like, they say, "Oh, we lost your bag." Well, not really. It's somewhere in like South Carolina. Find
Exactly.
me.
Like, no, no, no. I know exactly where it is, sir.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone with Apple products needs an Apple tag.
Yeah, dude, those are legit.
Hmm.
Although I did hear the other day that people are using like Apple tags and like iPods and stuff like that to like track people.
Hmm.
Creepy. Creepy.
It's a little
Uh,
creepy.
yes, yes, very creepy. But they're good and bad.
Hmm.
With great power comes great responsibility. Is that the phrase?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Something like that. Well, you think
Something like
about
that.
it. You've got $16,000 worth of pistols in a case, right? You
Yep,
got to make
yep.
sure you know where that investment's at.
Yeah, for sure, man. For more than one reason.
Yeah. One, you don't want to get into the wrong hands. One, they wouldn't. If some I hate to say gangbanger, but somebody who didn't know what they're doing with firearms or something rolls up and busts open your case, and they're like, "What the heck is this thing?"
Yeah, no kidding. Like, dude, look at this freaking space gun.
Right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't even know how to turn. They just turn it sideways and wouldn't know how to turn the optic on. So it's like, well,
How do they shoot with this glass? That's funny.
yeah. Well, I mean, or it reminds me of that old Romeo and Juliet movie from like the '90s,
Yeah.
where the guy who looks like JJ Rakaza essentially has got that open Beretta. Well, it's a
Yeah.
Taurus. It's the Taurus knockoff, the mid to like an
Yeah,
open.
it's a knockoff. John Leguizamo.
Hmm.
That's my that guy's hilarious. I like that dude.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen him in anything else other than that movie, but it's maybe
Really?
because yeah, or I haven't, or I didn't realize it.
Yeah, yeah. John Leguizamo has actually been in a lot of different movies. He was in John Wick.
Oh yeah, oh the guy with the car, right?
Yeah, he's the car guy. He's the
Oh God, he
mechanic or
grew
whatever.
up.
Yeah, yeah. He got mature and got fat, and you know
I
what
mean,
most people do.
right, fat and happy, right?
Yeah, fat and happy, fat, rich and happy. I'm sure.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting this awesome conversation, Mr. Kevin Gorospe, guys, but it's time to talk about our awesome sponsors because without them, we are a podcast without sponsors, and that is not acceptable. Anyway, let's talk about them. GoFastDon'tSuck.net. Go Fast Don't Suck is making your awesome products. They are the title sponsor of the podcast, been with us the longest, and they are fantastic. So go check them out, guys. I can't share enough good love to them. We have Hunters HD Gold. If you can, go to huntershdgold.com. And if you need to see Brian at a match, he'll be mostly likely there when you need him. Anyway, he'll give you demo days. He'll even help you with guns in his van if you need to. He'll even let you borrow firearms if your gun go down or you just want to shoot one of his at a match. So, hey, go over to huntershdgold.com and go find your next pair of Hunters HD Gold or Hunters HD Ruby for all I care. Then we have Laugh and Load. My friends Tony and Jackie over at Laugh and Load. They also are the hosts of the Pew Time podcast. So go share them some love. Go order some merch like the AFT Agent t-shirts. They are awesome and they look like the real thing. We also don't forget to get the Supreme Division shirt and make sure it says open because hashtag only shoot open. Sorry, not sorry, guys, because open is the Supreme Division. After that, we have DominateDefense.com. Go over to Dominate Defense and use the code Manny Talks 10 to get 10% off a Mach 1 speed belt combo. Yes, the combo because that's what it says it does. It's the best belt, and I will say it'll last 4 to 5 times longer than your double alpha belt. So that's okay. Go check them out. I love them. The Paracast love them, and you'll love them too. Don't forget to run over to divtechshop.com and use the code Manny Talks Shooting for 10% off your entire order of the best 3D printed, affordable magnets that you can use on your rig. They're colorful, you can accessorize, and they're just the best. Don't forget, we've got Chili Custom Gunworks, guys. Go over to chilicustomgunworks.com and make sure you get those awesome parts you need to make your Staccato or Springfield Armory Prodigy the gun that it should be. So go check them out. And if you have an open gun or limited gun being built soon, tell your smith you want Chili Custom Gunworks parts because they're the best and they're made here, right here in Michigan. Don't forget to run over to rangepanda.com and go give some Eric Steiner and Gianni Giordano some love because they help outfit all of our presses with the appropriate accessories that we need and want and love. Great shooters, top-notch people. Go support them, rangepanda.com. Targets USA, manufacturers of the finest steel targetry on the planet. I say it, Steve Anderson said it, so you must say it too. So anyway, guys, go check out Jason Wood and his products over there at targetsusa.com. They are fantastic, and you will not have to worry about anything. So after that, we do have some awesome stuff from TimHeronShooting.com, guys. Tim Heron is the guy who put me on the map, put me on the right direction, and he will too for you. So go find him at a class at TimHeronShooting.com, and he will find what you need to work on right now. So, hey, guys, that's the sponsors of the show, the sponsors of mine. Show them some love. Tell them Manny sent you. I can't promise it brings you anything back, but hey, it just puts a little warm fuzzy in my heart when I get that message from them say, hey, I got an order from a guy because they sent you. I'm like, that's awesome. So anyways, guys, let's get back to this awesome conversation with Mr. Kevin Gorospe. So we were talking about flying a little bit. You went to some majors this year. I want to talk about some of them that have picked out of there. So not
Sure.
necessarily your first major match, but definitely a long major match away. Dragons Cup.
Yeah.
Hot.
Yep.
Bullshit Odessa.
It was very hot. Yes.
Yeah.
That was an awesome match, man. That was honestly the first time I met a bunch of those dudes. So we got to hang out with JJ's buddies. All those guys were really, really cool. But the match was really well run. The only qualms Dave and I have about that match is the fact that we shot it on a Friday, which ended up being an entire day in the blistering heat of Texas. So I think next year when we plan on shooting that match, we're going to do the 2-day format so that we're not like dying out there. And that was the first time I've ever felt dry heat like that. I was like, man, like my people are tropical, but like, golly, this was terrible. It was really hot.
Well, at least you weren't like David, who was like literally wrapped up head to toe in like some form of like gator.
Yeah, dude, I don't even know why he does that. Like he like insulates his entire body. I'm like, dude, are you breathing even?
I mean, he's obviously still moving, right?
Yeah, for sure. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I would definitely go with you too. I would definitely do a 2-day format at that match.
Yeah. What did you? So you shot that match too, right?
No, I did not. I watched that from the sidelines, but it was definitely I would not have done that heat.
Yeah, it's honestly like the match is worth it. Like stages were fantastic. The stages were great. The setup was fantastic. The way they did everything looked like I'm kind of weird in particular about when I go to majors. Like if I go and pay good money to go to a major, I like to see things set up a certain way. Like I don't want to go to a major and look at the stages and it look like a local, right? Where like the walls are like halfway broken and things are like chloroplasted together. Like, you know what I mean? Like I expect to look at things and see something like a really production, like a really high end production is what I really look for, right? And dude, they did everything perfect. Like everything was like pretty much just built. All the walls were fantastic. The fault lines were like just painted. So like production for the match was fantastic. They did cash prizes. Like, dude, who doesn't like cash prizes? So that was a awesome match for sure.
Yeah, and I hear Billy and Marco, they did a hell of a job. Marco, I think even had to go get more water at one point.
Yep, Marco and JJ got more water. It was funny, man. Like they're driving around this pickup truck with a full bed of water, like screaming at people. I'm like, dude, people are trying to shoot. Shut up. It's great.
Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. It's definitely important to have a match put on professionally instead of like just your local match.
Yeah.
Painted fault lines, witness marked target sticks and all that good stuff, because repeatability is important, I guess. And not a lot. I don't think a lot of matches do cash payouts for stage wins or whatnot like that. So that's kind of an interesting idea.
I mean, like you go to like any 3-gun match, right? Like that's the normal, right? Like prize tables are crazy. Everybody gets guns. Like it's nuts. And then like you go to USPSA match, you get a handshake, right? Not to say that everything's about prizes, but it's like really like that would make this a little bit more exciting or that might actually attract more people to the sport if they knew that, people like prizes, and it is what it is. So
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there is definitely this idea. I guess it's maybe a disconnect between shooters and match directors, or, you
mhm,
know, what you need, what a shooter expects or wants or appreciates, essentially.
yeah,
More and more, I've found that a lot of shooters don't really care for a lunch. They'd rather
yep,
just keep shooting. Like if you're shooting an all day format, you're shooting 10 stages, and you got to do a hard stop for lunch. Sometimes kills people's momentum, and sometimes they just bring their own lunch, so they snack all day anyway. So they
yeah.
don't need that hour and 15-minute lunch break.
Yeah, it kills me. It's like
Mhm.
holy smokes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I usually don't eat much in match days anyway, so
yeah. I typically I try to keep the energy levels up, but not eat too much all at once.
yeah, for sure.
But you got to
Sure.
be drinking the water and staying hydrated because
Yeah,
you don't want to go down.
right. I mean, the only hard part about that, right? It's like, how would you balance that if you did it without a lunch break? Because it really, it's the lunch break's not for the shooters. The lunch break is for the workers, right? For
Yep.
the staff. So I mean, how would you balance that with not taking breaks?
Right. Well, I could see you could take a smaller break. Like if you're only going to if you're not going to stop for lunch, you could still kind of stop for lunch. Have essentially a stage like 30-minute turn where the lunch staff brings the bay staff like a boxed lunch, so they can eat it quickly enough, get their energy, and then get back to running shooters. It's
Yeah, that's fair.
because you give them some time to sit down, and if you have enough staff, you each if say you're running a stage that only really needs 3 ROs, but you have four, one person
Yeah,
could always be sitting down and they could be
yeah,
relaxing. So
100%.
but it all depends. I mean, not every match is capable of doing that because depending on staff levels, you can get, like, I know in area 6 they get a big staff turnout, and they can do
Yeah,
staff reset matches.
yeah,
I mean, it'd be a great idea to go to it. I know IPSC does it with a lot of their matches that they do, but it's trying to find that right balance for the involunteer enthusiasm of the area, or the wherever you're at.
right.
I
Well,
mean,
I think like doesn't IPSC like pay their staff?
um, probably to some extent. I don't know if it's a stipend or a per diem,
Yeah,
but I know there's people who are range officials, and then there's the people who are the resetters.
yeah.
So,
So I
but
mean, I'm just saying, like, if you paid the match staff a little bit extra,
mhm.
or if you paid a little bit extra in your match fees, and then that little bit of extra gets divided in the staff, like, I think it would be easier to get staff, to be completely honest. But
Right.
um,
Well,
like I've
once
talked to people about this before, like some of these majors that you go to is like $150. Like I'll pay $250 if that gives like the match staff a little bit of something to work for. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. I mean, and
Versus,
it all depends on region too. Like, it's
yeah,
probably really hard to get staff up in Maine, for example, you
sure. I
know,
mean, yeah. I mean,
or
I
in
don't know.
Alaska.
Like, yeah. I mean, honestly, the only match I shot in Maine was the Trident
Hmm.
Stand By to Fly match, and dude, like they ran a great match. They had a lot of volunteers. Like they had no issues. It was great.
Hmm.
So
That is pretty awesome.
yeah,
But I definitely think there is some recipe to the right number of staff, difficulty of stages, and getting staff reset happening.
yeah,
And yes, there are some people who will pay a bigger match fee, and then there's some people where it's like, well, how many stages are we shooting? There's this fine line, I guess, of that's enough or that's too much. It seems like, depending on the shooters, and then your attendance is really funny because of that
yeah,
price.
yeah, yeah.
I
Well, I don't
mean,
know. I feel like I see like the opposite. Like a lot of people, at least that I've kind of talked to, were like, "Oh, dude, how many stages in that major? 10?" Like, I go to a local that's got 9. Like, why am I gonna why I'm gonna pay like 5 times the price of my local for one extra stage? That like I
mhm,
hear the opposite end of that, where like they want more, and it's just not enough. But
right. Well, and like in your area, specifically Area 8, you have Antalani,
mhm,
Fredericksburg, all those matches that can and do shoot 9, 10 stage locals,
yeah,
and because they're also getting 2 days worth of shooters to
yeah,
shoot.
that's true.
I
Yeah,
mean, like, it's all about population density too, if you think
yeah,
about it.
good
And
point.
if all the matches are close together, and there's a lot of people there, you're gonna fill them up.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
but there's give and take too. So, I mean, at some, there's, like I said, there's that fine line of what works and what doesn't, and I wish it was universal. I wish we could give every match director the same handbook. This is how you run a match.
Yeah, that
Like,
would be nice, wouldn't it?
it would. And I mean, not to tell them that they can't do anything different, but like this is what works in the good way, and this is how you can get shooters, returning on your money.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if the club's not if the hosting club's not making money, they're not going to host matches anymore, and that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that's it.
So you did mention the standby to fly benefit match.
Yep,
Your boy David did beat you,
that's right.
but
all right.
it's okay. You still beat the rest of Team Atlas.
Yep. Well, except for one dude,
Yeah, what
Danny.
Daniel? Yeah.
Yeah, he's man, that dude's like he just comes out of nowhere.
Hmm.
It's crazy. But yep, Dave won, man. I'm glad for him.
That is pretty cool. You beat Trevor. I mean, that's all that important, right?
Oh, frick. Yes. I will never let that dude beat me.
You and everybody else, even you and Pan.
Me and Pan.
Oh,
Pan. Oh, dude. Yeah, that's our life goal. If we can make a tattoo of it, like don't let Trevor beat you, that would be
right. Or just it keeps developing, right? Where you can just keep doing tally marks, but then eventually you'll run out of tally marks.
Yep,
And then you'll have to well, I can't forget it. I got to cover this thing up now.
And honestly, like Trevor's a good dude. Like
Mm-hmm.
if he beats us, cool. Like he's a good shooter. It's just like I don't want his head to get bigger than it already is. Like he can barely fit in the door, right?
I mean, it is
So
kind of astronomically big as it is.
yes, like physically and figuratively. It's like golly. But yeah, absolutely. No, but for the Trident match, man, like I was really excited for David to win it. And dude, like we came into that match and he was like already frustrated. He's like, Kevin, like I keep coming in like second or third in every match that we keep going to. Like I need to do something in this match. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna make it easy, neither are any of the other guys, but like he had just came from like the Ben Stagger class. He'd had like thousands and thousands of reps coming in. So I was like, man, you're hot right now, bro. Like you're gonna be good. So he came out there and I don't think any of us really handed it to him. He definitely earned it. And dude, he's always been an inspiration of mine in shooting. Like he's kind of one of the reasons why I got into open, seeing watching him shoot, watching Ron Francisco shoot and stuff like that. So for him to be able to take home a win for Team Atlas and to be represented that way with the team, man, it was awesome to see. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is definitely awesome to see, and it's pretty cool. It's cool to see that, especially when you're finally able to make that breakthrough and not be so angry at yourself, right?
yeah, exactly. He's like, oh, thank God. We've all been there, right? Like you're like in a rut of like matches and you're like, man, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong or whatever? And then finally you break through it, or you have like a aha moment when you're shooting. You're like, man, finally I could breathe again. And I could tell that was kind of like a moment for him. And I was really kind of hoping and praying either him or I win. And if it can't be me, I'm glad it was him.
Right. Yeah, and that's always because you always do push each other. You two, how regularly do you two train together?
Honestly, we don't get to train as much as we'd like. I live about 45 minutes to an hour from him.
Mm-hmm.
But I live like 20-30 minutes away from the range that we train at. So his schedule has been pretty busy, and mine's been pretty busy as well. But I would say we try to hit up at least once or twice a week or once or twice a month, where we could kind of refresh each other and stuff like that. Dave's
Mm-hmm.
schedule has been pretty hectic. He just came off of nights, so he's been pretty unavailable during the day, during the weekends and stuff like that. And as a fireman, like I said, like I only work a third of the year, so I have a lot of free time. So I've been filling that with a lot of my clients with training and stuff. And when I'm there, I usually get there a little bit early so I could train a little bit, or in between, like while they're jamming mags, I'll get a couple rounds through and stuff like that. But yeah, the amount of times that we together get to train, we don't really get to do that too often, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, but it is definitely good when you're able to touch base with each other and jam it out. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we've shot together for a long time now, and we teach very similarly, we shoot very similarly. Obviously we shoot the same guns. We talk every day, right? We're like
Mm-hmm.
little schoolgirls talking. Oh, da, da, how was your day? Blah blah. like we're always on the phone with each other, kind of just, keeping each other apprised of our lives and stuff, and trying to figure out stuff with our training business together. So it's been good. It's been good.
Right. Now, speaking of your training business, you guys do the GW collab, but you
Yep.
also personally teach for your own business, correct?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. So I created my own LLC. It's G Performance Academy, GPA. My brother was like, "Oh, that's brilliant," and I'm like, "It's cheesy, but whatever." But yeah, I started my own LLC. Dave was really the one that pushed me to do it. He was like, "Man, you need to be training people." So, we made it happen, and that's been really successful for me. I've really enjoyed teaching guys to shoot, being able to unlock people's potential in the practical shooting or competitive shooting realm, and truth be told, the ability to watch other people shoot and analyze how they shoot has really stepped up my game. It's surprising. Well, I guess it shouldn't be surprising, but it's always a little bit surprising to me how much I learn watching other people versus me just repping it out, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's been really good.
Yeah, and that's definitely good. Like, and being able to, it just kind of increases your level of a shooter is being able to watch people, learn from that, and then able to give feedback.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
if I remember right, you had we were teaching some youth, not too long ago.
Yeah. Dave and I do the Area 8 junior camp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've done it I think 2 years in a row now, something like that. Yeah, I think Ted wants us to do it again next year, but not sure if we're gonna make that happen or not.
Right. Yeah. And it's nice to give back to the youth of the sport, the youth of the sport,
Absolutely.
because without them, we really don't have a sport after a while. It just eventually goes away.
For sure. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how all like the great people started, right? Like freaking Christian Seiler started in the junior camp, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's where he started. He started off as a junior, got lesson or got mentored by Max Michelle of all people, right? Like that's how a lot of really good shooters are developed, at least interest, right? It's like anything in the world, right? You wanna aspire the youth, like, well, get them out there, there's countless photos of uh people's kids in fire trucks and now they're firefighters, right? Like there's hundreds of pictures like that. So same thing's true with shooting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And those lasting impressions we make on the youth, they
Yeah.
go up and respect it, and they continue the sport, and they share it onto themselves and
Yeah.
onto their youth. So then it just continues down the cycle. Because if we
Yeah.
don't eventually keep doing that, eventually it's going to stop, and we won't have our firearms rights anymore.
Yeah. That's 100% true.
Mm-hmm. Now, David, no, we've been talking about David so much. I blame David. It's all his fault.
Yes, it's all his fault. It's always his fault.
No, exactly. But Kevin, what majors are you looking forward already for 2023?
So 2023 majors that we're looking at. Let's see. So obviously Dragons Cup is going to be a no-brainer. That's an awesome match. So we're definitely gonna make it out there to Marco's match again next year. So Dave and I we're kind of tossing around the idea of going to Carry Optics Nationals and shooting the Open Nationals as well. Obviously, we're gonna shoot Open Nationals because open shooters, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just really interested in Carry Optics because it's the largest growing division in USPSA. It's so large, it has its own nationals, and all the other pros out there go to at least 2 or 3 majors, right? Or 2 or 3 nationals. And
Mm-hmm.
traditionally Dave and I have only gone to one. So we're like, let's try to make this happen next year. Let's go to both. Let's go to Carry Optics and Open. So we're probably gonna make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we're gonna shoot Area 8. At least I'm going to shoot Area 8. I think Dave doesn't really want to do Area 8 next year. And I think he said he wants to do Area 6. And I think he said Area 7 or Area, I don't know. Some of the area matches around there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of on our list to go shoot. I think that's really, really it. He was tossing out the idea of shooting the Caribbean Open. But I think he says he's going to withdraw from that match. Not 100% sure why. I think he has like a scheduling conflict or
That or the
something.
fact that the hurricane just hit them
Or
and
that, you know,
they're out
maybe
of
that.
power everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go over there. No.
And if you think about it, we got 4 months from that match till that match now. It's a little tight.
Yeah, they might just have running water by the time all the shooters get there.
Right.
Um, unfortunately, that's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, we had that thought. There's a couple of IPSC matches that a couple of our buddies were tossing out there. I think like the Extreme Euro or something like that's coming here. Let me see what it's called. The Pan American Extreme Open next year. It's in January.
Hmm.
A couple of our buddies want to go do that match because they were saying that it's out in Frostproof again. So
Hmm.
we're debating about doing that match. Carolina Classic, I think we were talking about doing. We wanted to do it this year, which was last weekend or whatever.
Hmm.
But we just with all the traveling and stuff that we've been doing and the teaching that we've been doing, we're so burnt out with travel that we're just like,
Yeah.
man, like we just can't. We're just gonna take a weekend off and just relax, man. So
Right. Yeah. And if you keep traveling, the
yeah,
families get angry and it's like you're never home.
exactly.
It's like,
Yep, trying to find that balance, and as impossible as it is, you still gotta try.
right. And you don't want
So
to get divorce papers the next time you come home.
yeah, exactly right. All the locks are changed.
Yeah.
Like, man, this garage door opener's not working. What the hell's going on?
Exactly. And I mean, the nice convenient part, if you do carry optics nationals, it's in Ohio, so it's not
Yeah,
that far of a drive.
exactly. That was a big push for us too. We're like, man, it's like in our backyard pretty much. Ohio's always, Area 5 out there in Ohio. It's so easy to get to. So
Hmm.
that's kind of why we're kind of thinking about that. In the years past, Dave and I and a couple of our other buddies, we always went up to Ohio. We would go to like Ohio 3 times a year, but um, I don't know. It's just we always went to the same range. So we were like, man, we want to see different places and do different things. So we haven't actually been to Ohio this year, but maybe next year we'll try to make it out there for Carry Optics Nationals. That'd be
Yep.
pretty cool.
And if you don't go to carry optics nationals, at least go to the Buckeye Blast first weekend of May.
First
Uh,
weekend of May. Yep.
I think
Yep.
it's gonna be I know the match director, and they're trying to do some new stuff, and it's gonna be pretty fantastic. I think they're even gonna try to do some really cool things that I don't think is precedent yet in like current culture of major matches. So they're trying to bring the IPSC-ness back to USPSA.
Heck
So
yeah, man. I'm in. I love that stuff. I did that like I wish USPSA was a lot more like IPSC, like rule sets, everything. That's how this sport should really be run, honestly.
hmm.
But dude, yeah, first weekend of May, Buckeye Blast. We'll take a look at the schedule. Dave and I are really trying to push our business next season.
Hmm.
Teach more classes, do a little bit more with the team that we built. So a lot of the majors that we go to, it's going to be like the teams going, like our GW Collab team is going to go to. So we'll try to fit it into our schedule, see what we can manage and what we can take care of, and that'll definitely be one on our list. I've gone to Buckeye Blast a few times, I think. And,
Hmm.
it's always been pretty decent match. Where's it at next year?
It's gonna be the same place Nationals is at. It's gonna be at Cardinal Shooting Center. So
Okay, yeah, I've never been there. Good
yeah.
range.
Yeah, it's a really big SASP range, but it's also got the pistol division side too. So it's it's definitely growing. And the nice thing is they have their own dirt movers and everything. So it's not like they got to go get bids. They just do what they need to do.
Okay, yeah,
So
sweet.
improvements are always on the way, which is nice.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, so I did get a
Cool.
couple listener questions.
Oh, okay.
Um, this one's funny. You just hung out with him last weekend, but he asks, what teammate gave him the best reach around?
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh, that would be one Mr. Joe Farewell.
Hmm.
Oh, absolutely. That dude, that pretty boy. Man. So it's funny, right? Like me and Joe have been like, uh, we've been chatting and like, joking with each other for years now. And like we met each other at Guns Out for the very first time face to face, and it was hilarious. And the cool thing about like finding common ground with people or like finding commonality with people, it's like you'll meet them in person and it's like you've known them for your entire life, right?
Hmm.
And that was kind of like my experience with Joe. I was like, dude, this is awesome. So yeah, I love that dude. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he seems like he's very knowledgeable. He's a very good instructor, and
Absolutely.
it's cool when they can do their professional thing and then have their jokey side, right?
Yep, yep. Absolutely. You got to have a little bit of fun in life, right?
Exactly. If it's not fun, why are we doing it?
Exactly. 100%.
So this next question is it true the tighter your shorts are, the better you perform?
Yes, it's all about the tightness, not the shortness. Don't get that mixed up. I had
Mhm.
one dude come up to me like, "Hey, Kevin, look how short my shorts." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. It's not about how short they are, bro. Like, you don't want to go all the way to like your sack. You just want there to be enough of your leg. Like, it's all about how tight they can be for sure. You need it. You need that stretch. That
Mhm.
stretch fabric is key. I've been trying to get JJ into a pair of freaking jorts, but dude, he won't do it.
Yeah.
As many times as I've asked him, he just won't do it. I'm just gonna throw it into a suitcase one day.
Yeah, you might as well. And
Put
put a donut in there, he'll be fine.
a donut in there, right in the middle, right?
Yep.
You got to eat his way in.
Exactly. Now, so what's your issue with sleeved shirts?
Sleeved shirts. So, there's a lot of restrictions when you wear sleeves. No, I don't know. I don't know. So this is gonna kind of get a little personal, but like my dad died last year,
Mhm.
or he died in 2021, and after he died, like I told myself, I was like, dude, you got to take care of yourself so you don't kind of end up in the same boat. So
Mhm.
I lost a bunch of weight, and like when I went to the gym, I was like, man, like I want to show off some of these muscles, do this or that, whatever. And it was kind of like the thing to do. I saw Marco Cabehug. I was
Mhm.
like, dude, I'm gonna be like that guy. So I started cutting my sleeves off, and then JJ had his sleeves off. I was like, dude, I'm in. I'm Filipino. It
Mhm.
comes in my blood. So, but it's funny, right? Because like I'll wear like my cutoff sleeve shirts at home, and like, you know, there's very little material in the middle, so like my
Mhm.
nipple will come out, and like my
Yeah.
daughter will look at it, and like she's one, right? She'll like cover my nipples up with my shirt, and then the other side starts showing. She's like, "Dad, what is going on?" It's hilarious.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I remember when those were it was super popular for everybody to have, the rip away or the cut off shirts, and it was always interesting. Or they wore the cut off shirt and then they had like a long sleeve underneath it. So I never understood that either though.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird. It's almost like seeing dudes who have like hoodies on and like shorts. I don't get it.
I mean, I live up in Michigan, so that's kind of that is a thing when
Yes.
it's cold enough that you want your arms to be warm, but your legs you don't care about because it's like 50, 60 degrees.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Well, and then there's the
Fair
really
enough.
weird people. I don't know. They're like in the middle of winter, they wear shorts. Like, oh, well, I'm just going from my car to the building, so I can just wear shorts.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah,
matter. Like, no,
yeah.
you're crazy.
We have a
Hey,
we have a couple guys in the fire department who wear shorts year round. I
mhm,
don't know how they do it. Like they'll be, knee high in snow, and they're just hang out in their shorts. I'm like, dude, you're crazy.
mhm. Yeah, that is always interesting too.
Hmm.
So, Kevin, we are getting near the end of our time together, but it's I do have a couple more questions I need to ask.
Surely.
So, as you're just talking about your dad, who has been some of your biggest mentors in life or in the sport?
So in the sport, honestly, I have a few guys who really influenced in my shooting, have really influenced me in my shooting. My former boss, Greg Wodak, in Elite Shooting Sports, obviously, like I mentioned, he was the first guy who really believed in me, who took me under his wing and really got me into the sport. So I'll always be forever indebted to him for how he built me into the shooter I am today. Ron Francisco, Ron and Greg shot a lot back in their heyday. So being friends with Greg, he kind of introduced me to Ron, and Ron is such a great dude. He's literally like one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life, and he took me under his wing. He was an open GM, who's still currently shooting, so he would kind of mentor me during matches and stuff like that, kind of giving me pointers, and um, he kind of look out for me. He was kind of like my big brother out there on the range.
Hmm.
Um, and then from there, I would have to say JJ really kind of helped me step up my game. I took his class back in like 2019, and that's when I first got my open gun. Like literally, I put like 200 rounds through my open gun before I met JJ. So like I was brand new to open, and he just really gave me such positive feedback that it really fed the fire in me. and really instilled really good habits and really good fundamentals in me. Not that I didn't have good fundamentals from my previous mentors or any of those guys, but like he taught me a different, like his whole trigger prep thing, and taking advantage of the 90 and 10. Like his premise to shooting really kind of opened my eyes to efficiencies or deficiencies that I had in my system, right? So and he's such a great dude. Like, I have his number, and so being able to talk to him, he's so open, and he's always available to kind of help out. So definitely he would be one on my list that's really helped me. And I got two other dudes that have really inspired me and really helped me out in my shooting career. First dude, some people may or may not know him, but Steven Van. He was one of the admins for Go Fast Don't Suck. He used to be really skinny, and now he got really fat. Well, he was really fat, then got really skinny, and now he's really fat again. If you look through Go Fast Don't Suck memes, he's got a bunch of pictures of him being fat and skinny in the same picture. It's hilarious. But he was my original travel buddy. Like, we would travel every freaking where together. And we would have the greatest conversations just about technique, about competitions, and just our mental game. And that was really the first person who'd really like dove deep into the mental game with me, and just who would really inspire me to continue to go shoot. It's like, we'd go to like Western Pennsylvania, and I completely bomb every stage, and I thought it was awesome. And before I got to that match, and he'd be like, Kevin, look, like, this is what went wrong, this is what we need to work on, don't give up, we're going to kill it next year, or we're going to kill it in the next match. So I really owe him a lot too, for inspiring me, keeping me going. And obviously, last but certainly not least, and probably one of the more important ones, it's going to be Dave Wampler, obviously. Definitely one of my best friends, and I could not imagine teaching and owning a business with anybody else besides him. Like, it's just weird finding a dude that thinks the same way, shoots the same way, and it's just awesome being able to shoot every match with him, but to teach stuff with him. He's really inspired me to do a lot of things, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast. He's the one who really inspired me to start my own LLC, to shoot for Atlas. Like, he's a big proponent of why I started shooting Atlas in the first place. And so I owe him a real big debt of gratitude. And I really hope that him and I continue where we're going, and we see really good things to come. So
well, that's a great list. I mean, all those guys have imprinted on you, which is awesome. And then you're gonna be one of those same 5 guys for another person. You're gonna imprint on them. It's gonna start that chain reaction.
Awesome. That's a good thought.
It
I
is.
hope so.
Yeah, exactly. And the content you put out, the knowledge you put out, it's just going to compound from there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Exactly. Now, but we do got to pay the bills. The guys who help pay your bills, your sponsors. So go ahead and give them some love at the very end.
Absolutely. So biggest thank you to Atlas Gunworks for putting out the best firearms out there. These open guns literally shoot themselves. I literally just put them in my hand, and the gun just runs. So thank you for them for making awesome products and trusting me with representing them. Techwear USA for making the best gear out there to wear. If you haven't had a Techwear jersey, you are completely missing out. All the other jersey companies are okay. I'll never bash another company. However, Techwear USA is in a league of its own. It's the sheer breathability, the fit, comfort. It's just unmatched. So reach out to Joe or just to Techwear USA. Get yourself some good merch there. And realistically, I've kind of lowered my sponsor list of what I usually like to kind of shout out there, because I know the list could go on and on and on. There's a lot of people to thank, but those are really the 2 main people I'd really like to thank at this point in time. Atlas Gunworks and Techwear, they've taken care of me and Dave the whole way, so we're really appreciative of them.
Well, that is awesome. Yep, we got to make sure we plug them, because without them we can't do what we do, right? So
that's 100% it. Yep.
Absolutely. Now, Kevin, where could people, if they want to get a hold of you, where can they find you on the internet?
So you can find me on Instagram is probably your best bet. It's Kevin underscore I think it's competitive shooter or think or something like that. Let me look at my Instagram. It's shameful that I don't even know my own Instagram tag, but it's Kevin underscore Gorospe underscore shooting. That's the best way to find me. You can find a lot of my content there. You can shoot me a message if you're interested in any sort of training or you got any questions about anything. That would be your best bet. Look me up.
Well, that's awesome. Yep. So guys, go out and find Kevin on the internet. And if you want to train with him, talk to him, compare donuts with him. I don't know. Hit him up and to have a conversation. But Kevin, thank you, sir, for coming on. I've had a fun time.
Absolutely,
I've learned a
absolutely.
lot.
For sure.
And hopefully, next year going into 23, GW Collab's going to be strong for you and David, and it's going to be skyrocketing from here.
Yeah, guaranteed. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you. And to the listeners, thank you for checking this out. Until next time, get out and do the things, and I will see you on the next one.